Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm Kent Justice, your host for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. And this week, Karen Mathis is back with us, editor of the Jacksonville Daily Record. And the idea here was there's a lot going on, and I thought I would just pick your brain and look at the headlines. Daily Record's got so much great stuff on there. And so one of the things I figured we would talk about, you said, hey, there's kind of some secret projects here. And one that stood out here, one of the two big stories we want to talk about, so a mystery here, ICE, the abbreviation for Intercontinental Exchange, Inc., may be a connection here to what's going on in that Riverside area, the Black Rock, or Black Knight, I should say, exchange. So tell me what's going on here and why this is a secret project.
Well, a lot of these projects are negotiated with the Office of Economic Development, and they always try to keep everything confidential. There are state statutes that allow that. But when you take what the description is of the company, it's fairly clear that it's ICE.
Okay.
And the code name of it is Project Paper Company. And what we have been able to figure out is that it would have to be ICE because ICE bought Black Knight locally in Jacksonville, and Black Knight matches exactly what Project Paper Company is, which is a mortgage technology headquarters division of an international company.
And you said because it comes to the economic opportunity, we're looking at some of the numbers there, the facts and figures. Is that how we're sifting out that this is probably ICE?
Yes, yes. The incentives call for this company to have more. It already has more than 1,500 employees in Jacksonville. Not a lot of companies in Jacksonville are that size, so that narrows down the prospects there. And it would add another 500 employees, and it apparently is in an existing building, and it's a mortgage technology division. Very few other companies fit that description other than Black Knight. And Black Knight was bought by ICE, so there you go. Plus, ICE is hiring in Jacksonville for a mortgage technology division.
All right, so all the things are kind of lining up here. What are some of the incentives that you're seeing here as I'm looking at your reporting there? And I know that part of this is Mayor's Budget Review Committee voted just this last week, Office of Economic Development to submit legislation to the council for $21 million, city incentives and so on. And why would this be hidden, or why would there be a code name and not just out in the open?
A lot of times the companies say, we don't want our name out there. And this has been a standard practice in city incentives for as long as I've been in Jacksonville. There has been the state statute that allows you to hide that name. And there are various reasons that companies say that they want that done. They don't want their employees to perhaps leave or get concerned. And they also don't want other people perhaps coming in and trying to recruit them. There are many, many reasons that they give.
Well, on the employee side, I mean, they turn into reporters like us. Like, oh, well, I got to know, is this us? How's it going to? Because naturally, as a staff member, you're wondering, how is it going to affect me?
Well, and on the flip side, if a Jacksonville company was being recruited somewhere else, wouldn't Jacksonville want to know about that, even if they wanted it confidential in the other city? Yeah,
and as I look through this, is there some pressure from ICE, if that's who this is, on, hey, if we don't get the incentives that we want, maybe we're looking at a different deal or a different city?
Yes, that's usually what is part of when you ask for incentives. You say that the incentives are a material factor, that's the term used, a material factor in our decision, and that we're being recruited by other, usually southeastern cities. And in this case, one of the cities that has come up is Atlanta, where ICE already has a mortgage technology division presence. So if you say we're being recruited from other cities, by other cities, the incentive here would be a factor in us choosing Jacksonville.
Yeah, and again, I'm deferring to some of the reporting I'm seeing from you and your staff. States tentatively approved $124 million incentives, and this is part of the $4 million High Impact Performance Incentive Award, $120 million capital investment tax credit. All of those things negotiated, I'm sure, between the business entity, maybe ICE, probably ICE.
Right, it would be from the company, from the prospect, and with the state, the Florida Department of Commerce, and the city, Office of Economic Development in this case.
So there's another kind of secret project or whatever. Tell us about that, because you said it looks like the company involved is probably Haskell.
Right. This is called...
I say probably, and you said it is. It's
well,
Haskell.
yes, I probably should qualify and say it certainly looks like
Right.
Haskell, sounds like Haskell. This is called Project Blue Sky.
Okay.
And this is being negotiated with the Downtown Investment Authority. And then the incentives would have to go to City Council for approval, but the DIA is housing this particular project. And it also was negotiated with Jack's Chamber, which is part of the legislation that's being introduced. Haskell has a building. Everybody knows where this building is along Riverside Avenue, and that is technically downtown, the downtown overlay. And it has outgrown this building. It's been there for a long time, and it also is leasing space nearby. So it wants to stay downtown, but it just doesn't have the space where it is. And so the city is helping to negotiate it to move to the South Bank. And that's part of the incentives. Now, interestingly, I haven't seen an incentive with this requirement before, but this requirement says that the employees have to work in the building where they're moving.
No kidding.
Yeah, and that's new. I have not seen that, and I think that's a pandemic
Right.
result. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fallout from obviously what we saw in 2020 and beyond. And companies really have had to make adjustments on that as well. So seeing that inside what's written there for the agreement is interesting.
And I also think that the Downtown Investment Authority would be under some expectation that if you're going to create incentives and give incentives to a local company to move from one part of downtown to another, it really needs to benefit downtown in many ways. And that is bringing employees there to use the businesses and services downtown rather than work remotely.
Yeah. If my headquarters is downtown, but my employees are not downtown, then there's not that trickle down. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this and something I reached out to you, development of a Jacksonville surf park at E-Town. And this is a unique idea, but Park Group is involved here, right? And we've seen how they develop throughout our region as well. What are we seeing happening there?
Well, the Park Group is working with a group, a partnership group that includes several local investors, guys who grew up together, went to school together, and worked together, and a company called Aventure. And Aventure develops these inland or these wave parks. And they got together and they decided that they wanted to come to Jacksonville. They wanted to open in Jacksonville. It's a much longer story than that, but
sure.
that's the nutshell
Right.
of it. And they had a connection, of course, and knowledge of the Park Group's development at E-Town. And so they decided that they would choose that. And it's about 55 acres. And the central portion of it would be this inland lagoon that generates waves. And I could go there, since I have never surfed in my life, but I could go and learn. And then someone who surfs all the time could go, and you have the different levels of waves that are generated. There's a surfing academy. It's really created as a family function, a family entertainment.
Yeah, different than what we see down there, St. Johns County 210 and Beach Walk. And hey, we've got the biggest
That's a lagoon, right.
Yes, this sounds like a different experience
This is where
altogether.
you take your boards in, and they can create waves of any size and shape, and you can learn, and you can surf.
This is something that the investors said, well, we don't see this elsewhere in the region, so we're going to try it?
Right, they don't. There aren't that many around the country, and there aren't that many in the world. Now, they're becoming more popular, but as you can imagine, technologically, they're very specific, and also they're not inexpensive. And you have to have the market, so you have to have a territory that will support it. And this group said, we could probably draw from South Georgia, Central Florida, Western Florida, and all around the region to bring people to this, because it definitely is a destination entertainment.
So how does that impact the community there? E-Town, when you're talking about it, does this also influence more people, more development there, in addition to more people saying, yeah, that's the community I want to move to and live in and that kind of thing?
It would. This park, the wave park itself, isn't as huge as several acres, but around it they've designed condos, apartments, offices, retail, to make it a community, to make the center of a residential community, a live, work, really play.
What I'm reading is that they're looking for maybe hoping to open this by the end of 2027, so about a 3-year project here if things go well.
Right, exactly.
Is any community funding in here? Is it just private investment? Is there some public money that will go into it as well?
I would expect that there would be some sort of public assistance discussed because it is a big investment. We still don't know how big that investment's going to be. But for instance, there's a park such as this going into Virginia Beach, and there is public investment in that. And I think here you will get some sort of public assistance. Do not know what that is. They haven't discussed it yet. They've just kind of raised the flag that, hey, we may be talking to the city about public assistance. If anything else, perhaps power assistance, JEA or water assistance, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of water involved.
Wow. Yeah, has to be.
Has to be.
Has to be. So as we talk through some of these things, and as I mentioned at the beginning of our program today, I wanted to reach out to you. You're a great news partner for us with News for Jax. But just a moment ago when I asked about the surf park, you said, well, it's a bigger story, a deeper story than that. And that's what I'm finding, certainly when I'm reading at the Daily Record, that most of your stories go a lot deeper than just the headline, right? Tell us about, I guess, philosophy and how people can access more of what you're doing to educate people on economic growth and development in our area.
Of course, thank you. The philosophy is to tell as much of the story as we know. And we have known and found over the years that we have a big audience, and our readers come to us for many reasons, and sometimes it's to get business, sometimes it's to learn how things work and who the players are,
sure,
and how to make the connections. And that's why we try to go as deep as we can into detail. We want people to be able to access us and say, okay, I want to know who the contractor is because I want to contact the contractor because I might be able to work with that contractor. So the more information we give to our readers, the more
sure,
access they have to the news, and they can figure out what it means to them.
Do you get pushback when you do that story that says, hey, here's where it's at from DIA or from economic opportunity or whatever? Do you get any of the other side that says, hey, I didn't want you to tell everybody everything?
Well, I can imagine that not everybody wants us to tell all those stories, but I would say in terms of pushback, no, if we have the story, yeah, and we have the records and we have the information, people just want us to be fair and accurate with it. And
absolutely,
I know that's what you do.
Absolutely,
as
right.
long as you're fair and accurate, that's what people want.
Yeah, and I think that fairness is something that can be respected by everybody who's out there. Well, okay, yeah, it's true, so that's what we're going with. Karen Mathis, I appreciate it. I appreciate the partnership, and want to make sure that you know that that's another source you can go to get information on what's happening with economic growth and development in our region. So thank you to our guest today, Karen Mathis, and thanks for joining us for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. You can like, follow, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop every Thursday at 9 a.m. Thanks for joining us.